The Sniperwolf situations are just getting so much worse. I mean, her and herself is just a masterclass in how to not handle criticism because, I mean, the whole ordeal with Jax Films, that took an interesting turn. And now she's responded to the lawsuit that we've also been covering, and she responded in a way that honestly doesn't really surprise me because she essentially just threw down the reverse Uno card and shifted all the blame back to him. So it's safe to say that we have quite the story for today's video, and we're starting off with the whole situation where she showed up to the creator Jax Films' house and essentially doxed him for millions of her fans.
Wait, what?
She's literally right outside your house.
Oh my god!
This is happening right now. Call the police.
And that still is an unreal thing to say. I would never expect a creator of her caliber, or at least someone as established as her, to just straight up do BitBoy activities.
The Carlos's house. This is where Carlos lives, guys.
But the beef between Jax Films and Sniperwolf goes back about a year, but the recent TLDR is Jax Films made a couple jokes about YouTube promoting Sniperwolf, where they essentially said that, oh, Sniperwolf, she gets her ideas for her videos from her fans. When in reality, her content for the last couple of years has been watching short form content. So when he made a couple of jokes, she responded in a very unusual way. It's safe to say that she used Twitter to take out some pent up anger. So the way Jax Films decided to respond was essentially to clear out his quest log and started daily uploading videos on a parody channel that he had previously started about a year ago when all this kicked off, where he essentially rated her reactions and tried to give credit to as many people as possible that she reacted to. And then if you just fast forward like 2 months, Sniperwolf's outside his house while he's inside his house streaming, and she's sitting there going, come out and talk like a man, all while showing it to the millions of followers she has on Instagram. So it's safe to say she didn't take that criticism very well. So clearly everyone was like, no way did she just do that. And for a while, it didn't really seem like YouTube was gonna do too much. Like Sniperwolf was trying to laugh off the situation by posting stuff like this, and then YouTube posted this tweet. I have no idea where they were going with that, but thank you, YouTube, very cool. But to the community's surprise, they actually announced they would demonetize Sniperwolf's channel for a little bit. So then she posted this response on Twitter where she thanked YouTube for holding her accountable, which seems like total BS because when you consider this is what she was saying before this, thank you, YouTube, for holding me accountable. No. I mean, the whole thing just comes across as fake because you don't switch up that quickly unless you're kind of forced to. But then she kept doing what we were covering in this ongoing lawsuit. And by that, I'm saying she continued to re-upload content from her original channel to other channels. And these channels seem to still be monetized. And see, this is the exact thing her soon-to-be ex-husband, Evan, was complaining about in the lawsuit he filed against her. But the community noticed that and they thought, oh, she's now doing this because of her being demonetized on YouTube. So a lot of people were saying, oh, she's ban evading. And while what she's doing is definitely questionable, she wasn't banned, so it's not ban evading. But there's a mixed bag of responses to this because YouTube claims that all of her channels were demonetized, but others are showing, hey, we're actually seeing ads on her secondary channels here. So is she doing all of this because her main channel was demonetized and now she wants to monetize those videos on other avenues, or is she doing this to divert views and ad revenue away from her soon-to-be ex-husband, Evan? Because as I said previously, the original lawsuit we covered roughly a month ago, he alleged that she was doing this. And now she's been caught by the entire community doing it. So I guess she just had to show up to another YouTuber's house and dox them for people to catch on. But I mean, how do you prevent creeps like this to find information about you on the internet? Well, you need to combat data brokers because we've all bought something on the internet or signed up for some coupon and suddenly we're getting spam calls, emails, and physical junk mail. Because sadly, data brokers take your information from various sites and sell them to the highest bidder. The only problem is there is just way too many of these sites, and if you're gonna do this by yourself, you're gonna have to email every single one of them with some sort of takedown request for your information. And before you know it, you'll be spending more time doing that than your full-time job. But that's where today's sponsor, Incogni, comes in. Because thankfully, they're a service that will manage all that for you. They will scan the internet for your information and automatically send takedown requests. And with their subscription, they'll keep checking for you to make sure you don't get put back into the system. With just over a week of using it, I've already had 34 data collectors take my information down. So I've been feeling a sense of relief that there's actually a solution to this massive problem. So if you're dealing with these same issues, you can use my code Atozy for 60% off your first year. For me, the service has already been a massive win because the spam calls I used to get multiple times a day finally stopped. And sadly, that's just the tip of the iceberg for what data collectors collect. The crazier stuff would be your shopping habits, address, social security number, and employment history. So go to incogni.com/Atozy. The link will be in the top of the description. You can use code Atozy for 60% off your first year. So thank you again to Incogni for sponsoring this video as it helps out this channel massively. And without further ado, we'll we'll continue the video. Now, for the lawsuit that we mentioned earlier, there's been some pretty big news there as Sniperwolf has officially responded to that. Because as I mentioned previously, about a month ago, we covered her soon-to-be ex-husband, Evan Young, but also known as Sausage on the internet, sued her for multiple reasons. Some of the key points that he alleged in the lawsuit were that he actually created the Sniperwolf YouTube channel. It was his idea. He scripted the videos and played the game for her. She just reacted and read a script. It was his PayPal account that originally received the payments for the Sniperwolf channel. They created a company together called Channel Red. Sniperwolf and Evan owned this company 50-50. Sniperwolf broke into their residence and stole his hard drives and phones. Once a thief, I guess still a thief? Evan then locked Sniperwolf out of the YouTube channel to get his stuff back, and he can do that because apparently he created the Sniperwolf channel. And then finally, since the divorce started, Sniperwolf has been keeping Evan out of brand deals and created a bunch of new channels that re-uploaded and repurposed the original Sniperwolf content that he didn't have any ownership in. And that's what we saw happen earlier on in this video. So next, she tried to dismiss that lawsuit. And that was a very weird dismissal attempt because it even started with a riddle, but it seemed like the goal of this dismissal was to obviously dismiss it, but to move these proceedings to the family court because they are also going through a divorce right now. So it's safe to say they are having a rough year. But clearly the lawsuit wasn't dismissed, so Sniperwolf was forced to reply. And in this reply, she definitely has a very different story than Evan. She's way more vague, and she's definitely shifting the blame right back at him. So she starts the whole thing off with a counterclaim. Shailesh, who Sniperwolf alleges derivatively on behalf of Channel Red's LLC. Okay, so she's now representing Channel Red as well. He was suing her as Channel Red. Now she's filing a counterclaim as Channel Red towards him. Interesting play. She's currently married to Evan Young, while Shailesh is preparing to file a petition of dissolution. Evan Young beat her to the courthouse and filed a petition for dissolution on October 20th. So apparently she's claiming that she was going to divorce him, but he beat her to the courthouse to divorce her. That's all he said, she said, so can't really add too much to that. But it continues by saying Shailesh began a YouTube channel in early 2011, utilizing a deviation of the moniker Sniperwolf, where she posted videos about gaming and video games prior to meeting Young. Shailesh met Young in mid-2013, and the two became romantically involved. They married soon after they met in 2013. Young provided minor assistance to Shailesh in the posting YouTube videos throughout mid-2013 to 2016. That's interesting because, you know, he made it seem like he was the backbone of the channel in his lawsuit. At the time, the revenue generated from Shailesh's YouTube channels would be deposited into Shailesh's bank accounts, while the revenue generated from Young's YouTube channels would be deposited into Young's bank accounts. I think that's also a counter because in the original lawsuit, I'm pretty sure he was saying that the money from the channel was deposited into his PayPal, if I remember correctly. While Young enjoyed a moderate success on YouTube, Shailesh became an international recognized YouTuber under the moniker SSS Sniperwolf. Currently, both YouTube channels featuring Shailesh, Sniperwolf, and Lil Leah, collectively, YouTube channels have millions of followers combined and generate millions of dollars of revenue each year. Around that point in time, Shailesh and Young began to share their bank accounts, and the revenue from each of the YouTube channels were deposited into the joint accounts. On February 8, 2017, Young, with Shailesh's permission, organized Channel Red. Young, taking advantage of Shailesh's naivety with legal matters, appointed himself as co-manager, while each owns 50% of the membership interests. So that's an interesting spin. So I guess this is her side of the story, but you know, in the original lawsuit with him, apparently it was his idea. They went into a joint venture, and now she's saying, oh, he's taking advantage of me because we own it 50-50. Young and Shailesh never discussed how profits would be split. Well, I mean, if you own the company at 50-50, I'm assuming they'll be split 50-50. Just after Young filed his petition, he wrestled control of the YouTube channels from Shailesh and Channel Red without their knowledge. He secretly changed the login and password credentials of the YouTube channels to his personal email and password without providing the information to Shailesh. While Shailesh attempted to log into the YouTube channels to upload content, she was unable to do so. That's an interesting allegation because they're gonna have to prove that in court, I'm assuming. So now we have Evan claiming that he created the channel, and then we have Sniperwolf claiming that he stole the channel. Shailesh asked Young what was going on and requested the login, and he refused to provide it. He continued to prohibit her from uploading videos and content to the YouTube channels during the most historically lucrative months of the year. Indeed, Young's recalcitrant caused Channel Red to miss one of the biggest opportunities of the year regarding sales for apparel and sponsored products, because Shailesh and Channel Red could not upload videos to drive sales via YouTube. Okay, so interesting. So she just kind of glazed over the whole start of her channel and then jumped straight to 2022. The revenue diminished in 2022, roughly at August. So August was their peak, if I remember correctly, and then it just kind of like nosedove. Channel Red's revenue diminished in 2022 2022 and 2023 because Young prohibited Shailesh from posting videos during critical time periods. That's also an interesting take from her side of the story because he was claiming that she didn't want to work together with him after they split. But the channel did drop roughly 50 to 60% in its views over the span of a year after August of 2022. In an effort to mitigate the prospective damages to Shailesh's reputation as well as Channel Red's business and the YouTube channels, Shailesh created new channels which enjoyed immediate success given her tremendous following. Again, very interesting because Evan was claiming that she created these channels to essentially circumvent the YouTube ad revenue away from him and into her pockets. Because he's claiming that he doesn't have access to these channels nor the financials of these channels. However, Young without any basis continued to copyright strike the new channels, forcing Google to remove the YouTube videos before they gained any traction, causing even further damages to Channel Red. Okay, that's interesting because Channel Red, as we've established, owns the Sniperwolf YouTube channels. These are now being posted to something that's outside of Channel Red because he's not getting paid from these. So I'm not sure if he's actually damaging Channel Red here if Channel Red isn't getting paid from these channels. Because if Channel Red was getting paid from all these additional channels, I'm assuming that he would also be getting paid, you know, because he owns 50% of it. But in response to the lockout, Shailesh and Channel Red filed a lawsuit. Following a return on hearing on a temporary restraining order, Shailesh and Young agreed to a ceasefire deal and corresponding alternative dispute resolution mechanism to resolve any disputes related to Channel Red. Specifically, Shailesh and Young agreed as follows. Young would provide the username and login credentials for the YouTube channels to allow for the mutual admin access. So they're talking about this area where he's claiming he locked her out of the channels because he claims that she stole some cell phones and hard drives from him. What is she claiming? She's just saying that he's prohibiting her from posting videos during this critical time period. So she's not actually giving that much of a reason for why she was locked out of this channel. There will be a mutually agreed upon upload schedule which will simply maintain the systems that was in place before access was derailed. Young will continue to upload videos in good faith. So she's still relying on him to upload these videos. So I'm assuming that's also titling, descriptions, maybe tagging, and potentially thumbnails as well. So he still seems to be heavily involved with this channel. The parties will coordinate regarding posting dates and times in advance. The content will not stray from the standard flow of content and simply allow the business to thrive, avoid any further damages, and uphold the business's commitment to all those that are depending on consistent, professional, and valuable content. Yeah. Both parties will refrain from sabotaging any video performance by altering past, present, or future upload metadata, upload platform specifics, video tags, and descriptions, etc. There will be an agreed upon format that follows the previous patterns. From and after the date of this agreement, neither party shall make or publish any statements on the YouTube page or any other social media or other public platforms that maligns, defames, or materially damages the reputation or good name of one another or the company. Well, Sniperwolf definitely broke that agreement when she showed up to Jack's Film's house. She probably also broke that agreement 2 months prior when she started tweeting at Jack's Films as well. If there's any disagreement about a posting, the parties will first attempt to resolve the issue with one another. If the dispute cannot be resolved within the parties within 48 hours of when one party or the other raises the dispute with the other in writing, the parties will submit the dispute to Mr. Rob, who will hold a telephonic conference on the matter and act as a tiebreaker. Either party may submit up 1.5 pages of argument to Mr. Itkin prior to the telephonic conference. If they wish, but neither party is required to do so, any such written argument must be provided to the other party within no less than 36 hours before the telephonic conference, or it will not be considered. After customary business expenses are paid, money generated from the YouTube channels will be split evenly between the parties. But she's claiming here that he was damaging Channel Red by striking these channels, even though they're, I guess, not under the Channel Red umbrella. I don't know. We're getting a mixed story here. It doesn't really make sense. But here, Sniperwolf claims that Young breached the ceasefire agreement by bringing the instant litigation without following the dispute resolution mechanisms. She also alleges that Young continues his unhinged attempts to damage Channel Red and tank the YouTube channels out of spite because of the end of his romantic relationship with Shailesh. Indeed, in September 2023, Young tried to force YouTube to stop Shailesh and Channel Channel Red from Channel Red's routine operations and Shalesh's speaking engagements, making veiled threats that he would expose Shalesh and destroy the channels. And with that, they attached this email that apparently that Evan Young sent to YouTube. I know that we made YouTube aware of some pending legal troubles and issues the past year. I do feel a responsibility considering that we are one of the biggest brands on the platform. I wanted to give you an update regarding the lawsuit I've filed against Aaliyah. I hope to have a quick resolution to this, but nothing is for certain. The lawsuit is attached in the event anyone at YouTube Legal needs it. I do have advice. We, Sniperwolf, should stay out of the spotlight for the foreseeable future. Again, they kind of messed that one up when she showed up to Jax Films' house. I know that I've been wrongfully excluded from previous talks like initial VidCon talks and who knows what else in the last year. The nature of this lawsuit itself and things that may come out would ultimately hurt our brand, which would be worse in combination of having Sniperwolf featured in the public spotlight for events and public speaking. That was the email, and then the lawsuit continues by saying Young controls the things may come out, and this is not the first time Young has threatened to expose himself and Shalesh to damage Channel Red. I don't feel like that email was that bad. It's just kind of him saying, hey, I was wronged by my business partner here, so I'm suing them. That might come up if she's on a panel speaking. FYI. I don't take that really as him trying to destroy her reputation there. Over the last year, since the ceasefire agreement, Young has performed minimal work for Channel Red, opting to isolate himself and only presenting when he's triggered. For the past several years, Young has not been involved in anything related to the channels, but adding titles and descriptions. That's definitely interesting, but I feel like titles are still a massive thing. I mean, people take titles for granted, but the right title and the wrong title can make a whole lot of difference when it comes to views. The titles he's allegedly creating is Girl Thinks She's Smarter Than Everyone, Forbidden Food I Really Want to Eat, The Funniest Kids on TikTok. People are having a very bad day. Did she actually post that title the day she doxed Jax Films? The top comment is just, let's appreciate how Sniperwolf is genuinely an awful person. Right. I think she did a lot more reputational damage to her own channel than what Evan could have done by sending an email to YouTube. On a monthly basis, Young removes half the money from Channel Red's account without allowing Channel Red to first pay its expenses, despite the ceasefire agreement, straddling Shalesh with paying Channel Red's expenses from her portion of the account. Young does not create any scripts or content for Channel Red. Young continues to attempt to sabotage brand deals, but then complains when he's not paid half the money for such deals. Young's erratic, vindictive, and volatile behavior is causing severe financial damage to Channel Red. So apparently her counterclaim is for breach of fiduciary duty, declaratory relief, breach of contracts, breach of covenant and good faith and fair dealing. But then she says Young has acted and continues to act in a manner that is illegal, oppressive, and fraudulent by violating the ceasefire agreement and interfering with Channel Red's operations. So what did she do when she showed up to Jax Films' house, filmed his house, and posted it to an account that has millions of followers? I'm pretty sure that's both illegal and it breaks their ceasefire agreement. But on her request for relief, she wants punitive damages in the amount Channel Red will prove at trial in order for the court to preserve Channel Red's records and requiring an accounting of them at Young's expense, an order dissolving Channel Red and distributing the assets accordingly, an order appointing a receiver over Channel Red and all of its subsidiaries, an order granting the declaratory relief as specified above, Shalesh's reasonable attorney's fees and costs, interest at the highest allowable rate by law on all amounts awarded, and such other relief as the court deems appropriate. And then she just kind of responds to his original lawsuit by either admitting and denying each count. Well, fascinating. I feel like this is just a whole different story than what we originally received. Who to believe? I don't know. I feel like his was way more detailed than hers. She just kind of like skimmed through the start and then jumped straight to 2022. He gave a very detailed explanation throughout the entire story of the channel. Either way, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens to all this. If you want a lawyer's take on all this, I would recommend checking out Madcaster's video here. So thank you to him also for sending me this legal document. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.